real estate or business in general is actually personal development. I've come from a place of not knowing a lot and thinking I knew everything to knowing that I don't know everything.
Real estate agents, welcome back once again to the RMG Agent Podcast, and it is in the middle of our Masters series. We're so thankful to have you here and so thankful for the people that we've been interviewing, just giving us our time to be able to help us impact and empower and encourage you. So we're wearing our hats backward for our very special next guest. Who do we have?
We have a very close friend of both of ours, Brent Hanson out of Boise. Brent is an amazing individual. He's an amazing leader. And a fun fact about him, he actually was told in the military he would not be a good leader, and now he runs a huge organization. So I find it to be quite funny. And what did Brent have to tell us?
You know, Brent's interview was awesome because, you know, Brent started his real estate journey knowing he had cut his teeth on lead generation, hard lead generation in another industry. And so he came in, just rolled up his sleeves and got after it. And one of the things that was so great about this is now that Brent has a decade under his belt in real estate, just the level of humility and lessons learned that, you know, somebody like him that's incredibly sharp and incredibly driven entering into the real estate space, if they listen to Brent, they will save themselves years of heartache because of the wisdom that he drops in this interview. It's pretty fantastic.
Nice, that's awesome. Well, hopefully you guys find this to be as impactful, empowering, and encouraging as I do.
All right, guys, here is my interview with the Brent Hanson. Enjoy. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about, like, you know, where do you service and why should people listen to you?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I service Boise, Idaho, Twin Falls, Idaho, so everywhere in between.
Okay.
So it's pretty much the whole southwestern part of Idaho.
Excellent.
So why should someone listen to me? That's an interesting question. So first of all, you said longer than 10 years. I made it by the skin of my teeth. So March, we're talking right now, it's almost March of 24.
Yeah.
March of 24 is 10 years for me.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, in real estate, which has been an exciting ride. So why would someone listen to me? I kind of want to go back to when I first started in real estate and talk through where I was at.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a fixed mindset. I knew everything. I had just gotten out of the mortgage industry, but not the typical type of mortgage industry that you would expect. I sat in a cubicle 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, sometimes 12 hours a day. I was a cold caller, just a dialer. That's all I was. And so when I got into real estate thinking I knew everything with a fixed mindset, and I didn't realize how much real estate was going to change me.
How so?
And well, I mean, a mentor of mine says this and it resonates with me, that real estate or business in general is actually personal development.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so I took that journey. I read 4 books in my entire life up until 2015. And you know this, in 2016, I got out of production. So in 2015, I was starting that leadership journey of like bringing agents on, leverage, admin, all of those types of things. And I'm like, holy crap, you actually have to know something.
Sure, yeah.
And I knew nothing. And so I started reading books, and I was like, I have to turn on the ether here and the afterburner and learn as much as I possibly can so I can actually lead people. And so why would someone listen to me? It's because I think I've come from a place of not knowing a lot and thinking I knew everything to knowing that I don't know everything and listening to people that are much smarter than me and following in the paths that they've paved for me. So
awesome. I love it. So what are maybe 1 or 2 defining moments in your real estate career? So you've been doing this for 10 years now. What are a couple moments where you just stopped and you had maybe a crossroads or something that you knew was going to make you or break you?
So the first one, it kind of has to do with me getting out of production in 2016. I realized at that point that I was going to have to kind of grapple with this idea of either I was in the business of selling homes or I was in the business of building people.
Okay, wow.
Right?
That's a big question.
Yeah. So not that I didn't like selling homes, but I realized in the transition of moving from fixed to growth mindset and the power and the contrast that I had in such a short period of time, I wanted to help other people experience that. It became something I was very passionate about, and I knew I couldn't do both at the same time.
Got it. So what was that time like? I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of friction there, or maybe there's a chance to really mess that up.
A chance to mess it up. In other words, definitely going to mess it up.
Okay.
There's no chance about it. So just a lot of failure, and getting comfortable in failure, and getting comfortable with getting back up and moving quickly. Mm-hmm. I just finished the Elon Musk autobiography, and it's really interesting, his perspective around failing fast.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what I was living through. And when you get out of production, especially at the time I hadn't personally sold, I'd sold a lot of real estate, but not in the realm of getting out of production.
Sure.
If that makes sense. Typically when someone's getting out of production, they've sold a lot of real estate and they have a really long career.
Yeah.
I was 2.5 years into my real estate career.
Got it. So let's talk about that for a second, because there's a tension with our audience, and that is that some people want to get out of production honestly because they just don't want to do it anymore. Or maybe even they're just burnt out and all those things. Was this a matter of you were burnt out and you wanted to try something different, or like what caused you to build a real estate company instead of a real estate sales career?
Well, let me tell you right now, if you're burnt out and you think getting out of production is going to be easier, you're wrong.
Okay, fair enough.
There's way more work.
Uh-huh.
And the work comes in now shouldering the emotional stress, if you will, of leading other people into success.
Were you prepared for that?
No, not at all. And the cycle of my team from 2016 to 2020 was evident. Like I kept really good producers. People that joined my team in 2016 are still on my team, but I wasn't able to grow people who hadn't experienced success yet.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of failure there. And here's the biggest issue in that, because I wasn't prepared, is I failed a lot of those people. Right? It's my job to hold people accountable to their potential. And yet, because I wasn't prepared as a leader, I wasn't able to do that at the highest level.
What makes somebody want to take on the insanity of leading people to be better? Because if you've experienced it, it's like you said, production's hard, leading people is infinitely more hard. Like what causes somebody to want to go down that path?
I could speak to what caused me to want to go down that path. I think it could be a whole variance of reasons for people, right? A lot of different variables as to why someone would choose to go down that path. But why I chose to go down that path is I'd been in sales since '99. I've sold everything from electronics to cars to mortgages, and had stepped up into houses. And for me, seeing a career in just helping people buy or sell wasn't big enough or a big enough impact. And so I think the transition came for me was, how am I going to positively impact as many people as possible? Am I going to help 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, 400 people buy a house? That is a positive impact.
Sure.
That's a phenomenal impact. Or am I going to help 30, 40, 100, 200, 1,000 people do the same thing, help people buy or sell and grow personally in the process.
Got it.
What was going to take on more impact?
That makes sense. So what was a second moment in your business that was, impactful or a crossroads?
This is fairly recent. Probably one of the best decisions of my career was last year. I went through, my business had evolved, and I went through a financial transition in my business with a business partner where he wanted to move on and do different things in his world. We both just had agreed it was time. So at that moment, I could have just done this on my own, right? Because being in a partnership is challenging.
Yeah.
I grappled with that, like, hey, I really do have the tools and capability to do this on my own. Mm-hmm. And I decided through, I was masterminding with who's now my business partner, Chase Craig, for about a year. And I'm like, this guy has all of the characteristics where I'm weak, where, my strengths don't show up inside of my business. The best decision I ever made was to call him and say, I don't know what a partnership would look like. I have no idea. I don't even know if it would just be like sharing ideas or sharing resources.
Yeah.
But we should sit down and talk about it. And so setting my ego aside from saying I could just do all this on my own, the reward would be all mine, and saying I wouldn't serve my people to the highest level as I could with partnering with someone that could kind of fill in the gaps of where I don't show up at my highest level.
Right. I love that. It's so interesting because there's, in a lot of people in our industry, there's this idea of I can do that by myself. Mm-hmm. And whether they're right or wrong, a lot of times the answer is yes, you can. The question is, will you, right? Mm-hmm. But the other thing I see as a result of that is I see a lot of loneliness. Right? People that are going down this road of accomplishment and they're feeling pretty hollow for maybe a number of reasons, but part of it is, it's just kind of like, I know you and your family, there's something about being able to turn around to your wife and high five, or be on a vacation and turn around, here's this person sharing life with me, and now you go to your business and you're rolling solo. That's not always all that fulfilling.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is Chase, who I partnered with, had done it solo. Mm-hmm. I think he started his business in 2013. And so he had built his business up, really successful business, and he'd done it solo. And so when I made that call to him, he was like, you know what? It's kind of lonely. Yeah. And I would love to share in the success with someone on a regular basis that can understand and relate to the level that of the things that I'm going through. Because the leaders in your organization, it's not that they can't relate, but it's different when you're writing the checks, and ultimately, the failures fall on your shoulders.
Sure.
And the wins fall on their shoulders, but you kind of want someone else to relate with that.
Yeah, I love it. So it seems like when people build big businesses in our industry, or maybe in any industry, they do it for a long period of time, you start to get a sense of maybe what you could consider your superpower, or what are you great at, and you don't get a chance to tell it very often because it seems kind of egotistical, but you look, when you think about it, you think, holy crap, I'm great at this thing. What for you is that? What's your superpower?
All right, first of all, are you going to ask me a question about my anti-superpower?
Yeah. That's usually where the conversation goes.
Okay. All right. Here's why I say that. Because my superpower, where it contrasts where my weakness is, it's very dangerous, which is why having a business partner that kind of filled the voids was really important. And so what I feel that my superpower is I'm able to cast really big vision, get people really excited. Mm-hmm. I'm ultra creative with understanding how the consumer and agents are going to interpret either a product or the culture.
Okay, yeah.
I have a really keen understanding of all of that. The contrast of that, though, is I am really, really bad at execution. Okay. Bad enough to where even as a leader, getting my leaders to execute on my vision, I'm just not really good at it from a level of holding people accountable. And so, that's where the Chase conversation came in, because he's really, really good at holding people accountable to execution. Yeah. And getting to the finish line with things. And so, if you were to go into my business and you were to talk to my people who love our company and love what we've accomplished and ask them, every one of them would probably say, and there's a lot of things, a lot of really good things and a lot of really good ideas that would really work well in this market or work well in aligning with the consumer, and we never quite got it there. Yeah. We never quite got it to where it needed to be. And, just since the partnership with Chase, we've launched really amazing programs that were kind of my baby, my brainchild, and we've launched them to actually integrating it into the way we talk to the consumer, how we present it to the consumer, the way we market it and bring the consumer in off of it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears to behaviors a little bit, right? So it seems like there's some commonality around behavior when it comes to the way people show up in our industry, and there's also maybe a really vast difference. I've met people that are incredibly successful that aren't very assertive, and just fill in the blank. Are there behaviors that habitually show up for you in your leadership and in your business journey that have really helped you, and some that have hindered you?
The behavior I think that has shown up consistently that has benefited my team is my consistency.
Okay.
So I have a fanatical relationship with not making decisions to the point where I will do the same exact thing over and over and over again.
Okay. Tell me way more about that. Right, because decision fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think everybody has a different bandwidth, right? And in how much information they can process. I've come to grips with the fact that I have a low bandwidth of how much information I can process. And which forced me to, think through, how can I hack this, right? I'm really infatuated with, biohacking and getting the most out of my brain because I have just a lower bandwidth in general, right? I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
In a short period of time. And so decision fatigue is one of those things where, we all make decisions every day, hundreds, right? And what I know for a fact is if you have to make a really important decision, the later in the day that important decision shows up, the less likely it's going to be the best solution for that decision.
Sure.
And so not only do I try to make the biggest decisions earlier in the day, but I try to preserve my energy so if a decision does show up later in the day, I actually have the bandwidth to process it and think through it thoroughly. So something as simple as, if I find a shirt that I like, I'll buy 10 of them and I'll just wear the same shirt every day.
Sure.
Pants, same thing. These blue jeans, I have them in black, I have them in gray, I have them in dark blue, I have them in light blue, but the same jean, right? And I don't have to think about it.
Right.
And it's gotten progressively worse where, I'm wearing color today, but now I'm like, I don't even want to think about color, so I'll just throw black on. There was a joke going around, I don't know if you've seen these memes during Halloween. It's like, the Spirit Halloween costume bag, and it's like the CEO starter pack.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Someone had done that. It was like the Brent Hanson starter pack, and it was all the things that, it was a black outfit or whatever. And it was like, bonus, it came with a Cafe Yum bag. It's because for 3 years straight, I ate Cafe Yum for lunch every single day.
Yeah.
Same exact order, and I just got comfortable with the idea of, I don't need variety. When it comes to food, I just need to fuel my body so that way I can continue to move on. So that shows up everywhere inside of my business. And I think that particular trait has actually helped other people in my business kind of apply it in ways that work for their life too. So
I love that you say that. I would say that consistency has been my arch nemesis in life. Everything that excels in my life is because of a knockdown, drag out fight to become consistent. Right, it just is.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've experienced is there's this power of figuring out what in your life doesn't need a sexy factor. It doesn't need variety. It doesn't need the zest of life. It can flat out be the same every day. So that other areas that you want to have, variety and things like that, they can.
Yep.
Right. So it just seems like there's a very few things that if you can remove all of the distractions and you can remove the extra heavy lifting that's just not needed, you get to go further faster.
So 2 things. I was having a conversation with one of my agents the other day, and he goes, is it really that hard to choose your lunch? And I'm like, does it take longer than 10 seconds? Like, how often during the day are you like, what should we have for lunch today? Where do you want to go? I don't know. What do you feel like? And it turns into a 35-second conversation. So whether you think you're burning energy or not, you are. The second piece, to your point, is around consistency and grappling with being consistent. Is my definition of consistency, I think, is different than most because psychologically, like we put a lot of guilt and shame and burden on ourselves when we aren't at our best, or we're not showing up every day, or we're not doing the consistent thing. So my definition of consistency is not doing it every day perfectly. It's realizing when you're not doing it and being okay with it and just starting back up.
Got it.
And the time frame in between doesn't matter. And that comes like, if you think from an agent's perspective and lead generation, right? You need to make 20 contacts a day or 50 contacts a day, whatever your number is, and you don't do it on, you do it on Monday, but you don't do it on Tuesday. Because you didn't do it on Tuesday, now you have to double that number.
Right.
Now you're like, you don't do it on Wednesday. No, now you got to triple that number. Now you don't do it on Thursday. And the way I would coach to that is like, hey, look, let's remove the guilt, the shame, all of those things. You realize you fell off, just start back up with the number that you commit to per day. Yeah. Making up the gap, in my opinion, is where people like become overburdened with this thought of like, I'm not a consistent person. I just can't stay on it. I can't do it. And they just shame themselves into continuing to be inconsistent.
It's just interesting to me that sometimes the most simple things that we need to do to be successful are almost embarrassingly or shamefully simple, right? So this idea of like, I don't need to go do this big extravagant thing. I just need to, let's say I need to lose 100 pounds because I'm 400 pounds or, whatever that looks like. It's somebody might say, okay, go to the gym for 7 days a week, but the answer might be walk farther in the parking lot for a month.
100%.
And that's so embarrassing to say, but what does it look like if somebody is not doing their lead generation in our industry and the actual answer is eat a tuna salad sandwich every day for a month?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I was coaching one of my agents the other day. She's new, and she's never cold prospected. Mm-hmm. Well, in our world, a cold prospect is someone who registered at one point and they expressed interest in real estate, but they didn't turn into a client, right? We call that a pond or whatever, right? And so she was like, I've just never done it. And I'm like, do me a favor, pick up the phone and dial one a day. I don't care if they answer. Just do that.
Yeah.
Come back to me in 3 days, right? And she did, the first time she did one dial, she's like, I can do another one. Mm-hmm. So then she did 2 that same day. I think she ended up getting through 10 dials the first 3 days. But the point is like, we often put in front of us these really large expectations that we set based on what we see other people doing. And really it's just that first little step. That first little step is the consistency you need first. Mm. It's not sexy.
Yeah.
And you know me, I overcomplicate everything traditionally. And so finding a way to remove complications in consistency is kind of how I've found a way to succeed.
Love it. That's awesome. So what about mistakes? What are some mistakes that you wish you could take back?
I don't even know where to start. Probably one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made was also the longest mistake I ever made, which is when I step back now and think about it, I'm like, I lived in that mistake for 3 years, maybe 4. And now I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? How did I live in that mistake for so long? And the mistake was hiring the wrong assistant.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And so what had happened is I hired this person and this person was at the level we were at and good initially, but there was a lot of variables and variations that, we don't really have to dive into, but point is I decided to keep this person as my assistant because I had a desire to help this person personally and professionally,
right.
and I locked on to that, even though they weren't showing up in a way that represented our culture, our company, me, what I needed done, any of those things. And so it's like, I think the mistake is not in holding on to that person. The mistake is in holding on to that person for way too long.
Got it.
And it costs a ton of money. It costs a ton of emotional stress. I don't know. It's when you're in the moment, it seems like the right idea to help someone.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And so I think what I learned from that is the mission matters more.
Okay, let's talk about that because that is, that's profound. Tell me more about that.
Well, it took me 4 years to discover it, so it better be profound. So first of all, I think there's a difference between talking about your mission and creating this, surface level mission statement, and actually believing and living by the mission critical items of your company, right?
Yeah.
Both culturally and productively and all of those things. And end of the day, the reality is your team, the people observing you lead, will respect you and go into the depths of battle with you. When they see you make decisions that align with your mission, they'll also become stewards of that same action and emulate and embody the mission significantly better.
Yeah.
When they see you do it. When you're not living in alignment with the mission, they also see that. And then they also emulate that and embody that and all. And so when you don't pay attention to the mission for the sake of somebody's feelings or personal status, you're actually devastating however many lives are involved in your business, and you don't realize it.
Yeah.
The wake of bodies you're leaving behind you, can get pretty big.
Yeah. You know what is interesting is in our industry, so we both own larger real estate sales teams, but the bulk of our industry are solo entrepreneurs, right? That's the majority of our industry. And it's interesting because there's something about the feedback you get when you start building something that shows you your deficiencies and your strong points that you never had a sounding board for when you were a solo producer.
Yep.
So if somebody was watching this and they're a solo agent and they're selling 5 houses a year, they're selling 50 houses a year, what would you tell them when it comes to their personal growth and development, maybe things that they're not even aware of right now?
I think the first lesson that anybody could learn, let me preface this first. We all have egos.
Yeah.
All of us, every single one of us, we grapple with it every day. And so I think the first thing I would say to someone who's solo or independent, kudos. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's not easy. The best thing you could do as a solo or independent person is set your ego aside. You haven't done anything that anybody else hasn't done. You haven't discovered it. Like, there's nothing new under the sun. Right. And I actually had to realize that early. I thought I was going to reinvent the way real estate was done.
Sure.
And so the reason why I think that's important is because once you've done that, you become so much more open to feedback, mentorship, guidance.
Wow.
And even from people that are running organizations and teams. Like, there are some people that I have helped in the past, and I see them not apply because they think that either I was giving them advice biasedly. Maybe something was in it for me. Mm-hmm. Or maybe by the way, that's a hallucination. I don't know if that's true. But more importantly, I think that their ego is telling them that, their way is always going to be the better way.
Man, I think that's so incredible because it makes me think, regardless of whether they would be better in a team or an organization or not, it's the same growth path, which is check your ego at the door and then make a decision that's actually better.
100%. Right? As a business owner, independent agents, solo agents, they own a business. They just need to realize it. Right? But as a organizational business owner, I can tell you, I have been faced with so many scenarios and variables and situations of personal development growth, business development growth, and been helped along the way.
Right.
And being open to being helped has completely fast-tracked my ability to succeed. But what it's also done is when someone comes to me for help, or they don't know they're asking for help, but they're talking about their problem to me, like, I want to help them. Sure. Yeah. Because that's how I got to where I'm at. Because other people that have done it helped me accomplish something. And that's the same motto that I have. And I think from an individual or independent, I think the lens is so narrowly focused because, they're not running into as many variables on a fast pace, right, than an organizational structure. So
yeah, I think about, so I went to a little 2-room schoolhouse, welcome to the Northwest, growing up. And I remember we'd go out and we'd play football, right? And when the teachers weren't looking, we'd play tackle football. And everybody wants to be the quarterback, right? When you're playing with your buddies out in the field. And that's great for 4th grade. Right. But when you see people go on to the NFL, right, and you see somebody and they're 6'5", 350 pounds, they're not the quarterback. And they never would have had the opportunity to play in high school, college, and then on to the NFL if they didn't say, okay, what is my highest and best use and how can I actually be best in the world? And I think in our industry, we have people who are solo producers that should own teams, solo producers that should be on teams, teams that should be with other teams and partnerships. And the reason that some of these excellent decisions that go in every direction are because everybody has this idea of, I was born to be the running back or I was born to be the quarterback. It's like, well, you're 350 pounds and you're built like a tree trunk. That's not the answer.
Yeah.
Right.
So I love that metaphor. I love that thought. And it's something that I talk to a lot of agents about is you kind of come to this fork in the road in production as a solo agent. And this is just my opinion. I think it's true. Is you either are going to join leverage or create leverage.
Yeah.
Right? That needs to happen in order for you to scale. If you want to grow a business, like if you're happy closing 1 deal a year or 1 deal a month or whatever the number is, and the way you're doing it works, I would challenge you on that. Mm-hmm. Right? I would challenge your personal life, your life by design, your investing strategies. All of those things are impacted by you trying to be everything at one time. And so I think you come to this fork in the road of you're either going to be a really good business owner or you're going to join a really good business owner, or if you're a team, there's a lot of teams that like the gaps inside of their organization, if they were to merge with another larger organization, they would actually serve their people better and have a life by design, the one that they actually wanted.
Right.
They just can't see it from where from the position that they're playing, because they're playing 5th grade football or 6th grade football or whatever. Right.
It's amazing, right? The cost of our ego and how for somebody who's listening to this, the gap between them and waking up full of joy every day or having peace and not losing sleep actually just may be their ego. And so completely selfishly, if you have a choice between your ego and your preferred future, and you continue to choose your ego, your preferred future is just not an option that you're going to have available to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, like really think about that statement, right? Like your ego, what is that? Your ego is the thing that's telling you, what is everybody going to think about me right now, today, right? What do they think about me? How am I going to show them that I'm the best of the best? And so if they're a solo agent or a team owner, it's that their identity has been formed around this. I'm really successful as an independent agent and I do all of these things, and what would my clients think? What would my friends think? What would my business partners think if I were to shift directions and join a team, for instance? Right. And the reality is that decision could free up time and give them the life that they want. Maybe it's more time with their kids, or maybe it's more time to invest in real estate. It's perplexing to me that is a thing that we all deal with, and yet every single day we grapple with our ego.
We do, yeah, and it's very, very costly.
Yeah.
I could talk to you forever on this stuff and all the things I've known you've learned and just how well you develop your people. I want to just say thank you. Like our job here on this podcast is to build wealth and wholeness with everyone we serve. We do that by impacting and empowering and encouraging agents. And I think you just knocked it out of the park on all those things.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining me.